Welcome on in, everybody. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Coming to you here after a Miami Heat victory, 110-96 against the Golden State Warriors, or what was left of them. Honestly, it was a game that was, a little too tit for tat for the most part. The Heat came out of the gates defending their asses off, and the Golden State Warriors just I think they missed their first 12 shots. I don't think a starter made a bucket until Buddy Hield came in, and then he made the first field goal for the Warriors. But the Heat, you could tell after defending hard for 6 minutes, they were like, "Oh, come on, dude, this game ain't endangering us tonight," and they didn't have that same urgency. People always say, take care of business, come at it with this intensity and fury. And they just, everybody jokes about it. Once you got the news today, no Steph Curry, no Draymond Green, and no Jimmy Butler, that you had this chance that there was going to be some rut somewhere, somehow. But on the Heat side of things, I was hoping for some avoidance because it was the return today of Bam Adebayo. The captain was back in the building, back in uniform, and he would make a big impact, but that impact, much like the rest of the team, would come in that just absolute slam dunk of a fourth quarter. But yeah, look, it's hard not to feel like you came into today. All of the feeling on this game was that nobody was going to play for the Warriors. And I guess going back, and I talked about this a little bit this morning and on the radio show, I guess it all makes sense why ESPN maybe got the heads up to bow out of this game. Although I do think they got a stinker today too, at least when I checked. I guess the game ended up being closer than I thought, but the Rockets won 114-104 over the Cavaliers. That game was a lot. That game was pretty lopsided when I checked in on it. But yeah, no Jimmy Butler. He did not play in the second end of a back-to-back. Not surprised. They, the Warriors, they're playing the hardest basketball out of everybody. I heard from people from the Warriors. Oh, we've been to every city. We have traveled. We've been. We don't even. You wouldn't even know we were the Golden State Warriors. We've never been there. People were just, we heard up and down the poor Warriors, because we know in this grand basketball league that fortune has certainly never shined down on the Warriors. So the poor Warriors had to play basketball away from their Warriors cathedral. So sorry. Steph Curry was legitimately hurt. I mean, Steph Curry tweaked his ankle. This is the most, I got to be honest with you, this is the most lovable star that there is. He's just even today, all the Warriors fans that were there to see him, and he legitimately is his own. He's his own band. And I've been to Warriors games where it was the Splash Brothers and all the Warriors fans. They love Draymond and they love Klay Thompson, but they love Steph Curry. Anyway, yeah, so he didn't play tonight. And then Jimmy Butler. Look, dude, I'm not gonna sit here and say quack quack, you were ducking. I'm not gonna sit here and say that, but I'm just gonna tell you it kind of looks like you were ducking this matchup. And whatever, I guess the chapter's behind. This is not this is not something that the Heat were really given a lot of air to. And I gotta tell you, the fans, it was a little hard to get a read on today because he didn't play. There was a smattering of Jimmy's tired chants. We heard you are heard, Heat fans. You are heard. But it was he was out on the bench. He kind of sashayed out there after the national anthem. And that was kind of all of the drama up until the end of the game. So we'll get to that in just a second. But this game, first quarter, Heat, they're up by 9. I mean, the Warriors legitimately could not buy a bucket. It was really, really bad. It was not an enjoyable brand of basketball. I want to say one thing, though, because this is the first game that I've been boots on the ground for. I was supposed to be on Monday. And I'll tell the tale on what happened Monday and in the near future. But the Miami Heat black Vice jerseys, there's not a better uniform in the sport. They're so good. I don't want them to replace the regular Heat uniforms because I love, the red. But I adore that jersey. It's so mwah. I mean, it is gorgeous, that Miami Vice jersey. So it was just great to see it in action. And of course, Bam Adebayo comes back today after 6 games of resting up his toe. But the first quarter gets going, and you get Pella and Davion. They're getting each other involved. Simone Fontecchio hits you some mama threes, and the Heat pretty much were in control of it. But like they could have put the hammer down early. There was like some basketball in this second quarter where like legitimately the teams were ping ponging the ball all over the place, could not do anything. It was awful. Really, really awful to watch. And then Miami just shot like absolute dog crap in the second quarter and really allowed Golden State to get all the way back into this game. They really got a spark from Buddy Hield, and they got a spark off the bench from him. And then Pods, who got an awful start, he started getting a little bit more comfortable. And this Pat Spencer was chirping, chirping, chirping all over the place. It was funny because, you were sitting here and it was one of those days where like Jaime Jaquez was, you got a slow start from Norman Powell for whatever reason. He just wasn't looking for his shot. It was a lot of Pelle Larsson. Like it was just, I don't know. The ball just always ended up in Nine's hands, and he wasn't having the cleanest day in the world either. Nobody really was up until the fourth quarter. And same thing went for Jaime. Like Jaime was aggressive and he was driving downhill, but he was running into a wall. And then there were some points. One of the things I loved is like he was really like relentless. And there was at one point where he is just like absolutely like freaking just getting after it and getting putbacks, and he gets a tough bucket and starts like, flexing at Pat Spencer, him and his mustache, and they both got double techs, but the Heat were up 5 at that point. The Warden was in the building, which like that was awesome. I love seeing Joel Anthony. I saw him outside the Heat locker room too. What a legend, the Warden. Just an absolute icon. But it was just basically this brick fest in the second quarter. Miami couldn't get anything going, and we get to the third quarter, and it was a little bit herky jerky, just like that, like a lot of fouls to start things off. And Davion Mitchell picked up his 4th foul, so then you're like kind of a little bit out of your rhythm and rotation with that stuff. And then eventually the Warriors were just chipping away and chipping away. And Quentin Post ended up hitting, I think, a 3 ball, and it put Golden State up by. Quentin Post hit a couple of shots he hit a shot that put him up 60-59, and then Bam answered right back and got a 3. And then a few plays later, he put him back up with a 3 ball. And you're just like, ugh, this sucks. And I think the Warriors, their largest lead today was 4. I think that was their largest lead. Was that the largest lead? Let's see. Box score. 5. 5 was their largest lead tonight. And yeah, Jaime did another, like towards the end of the third quarter again, like just didn't have the most efficient night, but he was like, he'll be damned if he was going to go down. Like he just was put back after put back after put back, nothing could sink. Like, how everything was going for him early in the year, like this game, it just like nothing could get going. And he had a couple of ones where he just like was relentless. And so you go into this third quarter, and the Warriors have the lead. They're up 74-72 on the Heat. And you're just like, geez Louise, are we kidding me? And just like, yeah, you basically had nobody really just got into a rhythm. Like Jaime, He had a couple of moments for Simone Fontecchio. Kel'el Ware, man, Kel'el Ware played 19 minutes today. Did not start. So they went to the starting lineup. They basically swapped out his spot and put Bam back in there. And they were monitoring Bam's minutes. They didn't want to play him over 30, Spo said after the game. So he, I think, finished with 28 minutes is what he finished with tonight. 28, 40. Yeah, so about he kept it under wraps by barely. And they get into this fourth quarter, Kel'el Ware was really like he was demonic with his rebounding today. That was a great thing. Couldn't get many buckets to drop. Just didn't have that touch around the rim today. But the effort was there, the energy was there, the relentlessness was there. He just had one of those nights, just couldn't get any of these things to drop for himself. And that was unfortunate, but I think everybody really appreciated that. Hey, your time starting is over. What's the response going to be? And there was no Niko Jovic today. He was out with a hip injury. So they, again, are in a position where they only have two of their bigs. And I just liked it from Kel'el. I love the relentless energy. And everybody says that this is really where the game turned, according to Eric Spoelstra. But Drew Smith, they were tied. I think they were tied at 74 apiece. And Drew Smith, very uncharacteristically, just passes the ball right to Eric Spoelstra. And I looked over the guys and I'm like, that's got to be the only thing that could ever, like, Eric Spoelstra be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what are you doing, dude? And even Spo joked after the game and he goes, I think that was kind of the turning point of the game because he did something so ridiculous like Drew Smith never does. And then all of a sudden he was just like an absolute fiend, just like an absolute Wolverine going after the basketball like crazy. He's ripping it from Buddy Hield. He's in every scramble. And so like he's just everywhere. So Simone Fontecchio, he gets fouled shooting a three, so he makes all three of those free throws. Then Drew forced a Buddy Hield turnover, and then there was a wild scramble where like Kel'el Ware was ends up getting a bucket, but there was a scramble for the ball that Drew got, and then gets it to Jaime, then to Kel'el. So, yeah, he really just, he and everybody made mention of this, Norm, Spo, that Drew seemed to change the temperament of the game and then just started getting things going. Jaime would get a bucket off of goaltending. And then, with about 7 minutes left, Norman Powell comes in the game. And let me tell you something, dude. Norman Powell came to shut this motherfucker down. Like, he was like, all right, enough bullshit with this game. I have 8 points. I'm ready to just go scorched earth on this motherfucker. And that's exactly how he played. Because Norman Powell just like, ding, green light, was just an absolute monster. Just absolutely flying towards the rim and just couldn't be stopped. He starts with a simple drive. He puts the Heat up 6. Then he goes and has a little stop drive, reverse layup, and then boom, and then he hits the runner and gets the foul with Buddy Hield picking up his 4th foul. And then Quentin Post shook as all hell because Norman Powell looks like he's just going absolute, on fire mode, NBA Jam style. He throws the ball into the second row, which, by the way, I saw a lot of sloppy basketball today. They were throwing the ball all over the place. Then Norman Powell goes again strong, gets the bucket off the glass. He all of a sudden has the Heat up a dozen in like less than 2 minutes. A blink of an eye, Norman Powell completely flipped the game on its head. So you're like, well, all right, this is looking good. But then, the Warriors wouldn't say die. It was Pods hit a 3, and then Spencer got a jump shot. I think they got it to within 6. And then the starters all came in with the starters basically all came in. It was, I think, Mitchell, Pella, or I think it was Mitchell, Jaime, Wiggins, Bam, Norman. I think that was the thing that was out there. So Norman Powell, subs are made. Another ridiculous layup that he makes, a reverse layup. He's looking incredible. Quentin Post keeps it to single digits. And then Bam Adebayo decides, you know what, dude? It's good to be back. I'm going to get in on the action. And the captain just decides, I'm going to start unleashing some threes, some silky smooth jumpers on him, big strong drives and finishes. And then he's just, he's putting his head down, and he's absolutely putting the hammer in the final nail on this game against the Golden State Warriors. Norman Powell with a minute left would hit a 3-ball. That would basically be the dagger. Could have fired Peppers if you wanted to. It was 105-90 at that point. He would go on to win 110-96. They scored 38 points in the fourth quarter, outscored the Warriors 38-22. So in a game that certainly was a drag because it's deflating. You're taking on basically what's the bones and the remnants of the Warriors. They basically threw you a tap out game, and it was a little harder than you wanted it to be, but ultimately in the fourth quarter they laid the hammer down and put it on this team. And you got it done by the two guys you'd want to just say, hey, enough of the BS. And that's Norman Powell and your captain Bam Adebayo just saying enough is enough. And true to form, that's how they finished the game today. Bam with 20.7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 block shots. And that was in 28 minutes, 7 of 13 from the field. He was 3 of 4 from downtown today. Had his 3-point shot working, which not normally. I'll tell you this: you can't really read that in pregame. I've seen guys have great pregame shooting, and you're just like, this guy's going to have a good game, and then he'll brick up the joint, and you've seen it on the other side. But I will say, Bam today in his pregame warm-up, and he was doing it early because they had a late shoot-around, this dude was like sniping today. He looked like he was peacocking, ready to get back out on the court. So, and I see his lovely significant other, Asia Wilson, referred to this as a terrific day. She's good with the punch. She's funny. And she was wearing a Bam jersey today, which is 2 scoops of adorable, those two. And Norman Powell, dude. Have you thanked the Clippers lately? I had to thank them again on Twitter today. I just wanted to thank the Clippers again for blessing us with Norman Powell. I can't believe these idiots traded him to us for a bag of donuts. Incredible. What a day. So yeah, man. Andrew Wiggins today, 17 points. I'll say this, it wasn't the most efficient game from Andrew Wiggins, but there were times he was the only guy who was looking towards the rim and could get his own shot and was kind of keeping him afloat. He was a team high plus 25 today. So while it's not the prettiest, Andrew Wiggins was a big part of this one too. He really was. And I loved it. I love today's game from Kel'el. I love today's game, especially that fourth quarter from Drew Smith. And I think it was good for the Heat to get a win like this because the season has been so free flowing. The Heat's fast offense. I think it's important to show you can win in different styles. I don't care who the opponents are necessarily. I think it's important to show, hey, this game was a little bit in the muck. It was not pretty. The shots weren't falling. Spo said after the game he didn't love the shot selection, and they were able to turn it around and get it to where it had to be. So I like that from him. All right. As far as after the game is concerned, this is hilarious. So, yeah, there's not really, when Jimmy Butler's not playing, there wasn't a lot of drama. But it is hilarious that you have a Warriors team where there is a lot of love between both parties. You have Eric Spoelstra and Steve Kerr, who have been on coaching staffs together and, of course, are the longest tenured in the NBA coaching fraternity. And then you have Bam, who is not only one of the most beloved guys in the league, but is beloved by guys on that team, and Steph Curry, who him and Bam Adebayo had this bromance conversation afterwards. Draymond Green, also, like, a lot of respect there. They were on a gold medal team together as well. And then everybody on that Warriors team loves Andrew Wiggins to death. And so you have all of this harmonious relationship going on. And Jimmy Butler, who, yeah, it's deserved because of how things ended. But he also, the thing, and a lot of people were making this point on social media, like how much of a bummer it is that the great basketball him and Bam Adebayo played together, that at least to our eyes, that there hasn't been any kumbaya moment between the two. I remember last year, those two were on the court together warming up on opposite sides and no interaction whatsoever. And then today, Jimmy Butler, after the game was over, could he have, all the other guys who didn't play were hobnobbing, he right to the locker room. And I don't know what to say about that. Like, other than it's sad, it's a bummer, and it's not a great look that that's the way that it wants to play out. And I think that that's unfortunate because this is the place that's going to be his most successful stop in a very impressive NBA career, and that the bridge was burned with kerosene like it was. But, one of the things that he always made the point of that kind of has rang hollow is he always made the point, and there was a lot of things that probably rang hollow with what he said. But he's always like, well, there's no problem with anybody in the locker room. There's no problem with any of the guys here. Well, it's like, well, then why do you act like it, dude? If there was no problem when all that stuff was going on, why do you act like the players made any contract decisions? Why? Because Bam got his extension because he shows up every day to work and defends his ass off and plays hard. Yeah, nobody denied that, you were the one and he was the two on that team, on those teams, but he always made himself available. And also, like, dude, he's in the prime of his career. Like who's not realizing that this entire thing was about paying a 36-year-old who can't play back-to-backs anymore that kind of money, $60 million. So I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for Butler, who has not beaten the Heat now. He was not part of this action today, but I got to tell you something, dude. Something tells me, people say, oh, it doesn't matter. They didn't play the Warriors. I got to be honest with you, dude. If they did play the Heat and they were so wounded and so run down, I got a feeling like this game would have been a boat race if those guys did play, because that would have had everybody locked the hell in for this game. But we'll never know. Can't really, because Steve Kerr was basically plotting and whining about this for a week that he wasn't going to play anybody. It's a tough look. Look, I get the Warriors bear this burden of having the circus in town with Steph Curry. Everybody wants to see this dude. He's a rock star. But then you also have this side story of like, hey, the Jimmy Butler was a big part of great basketball here, and now you don't want to play games. And we kind of went through this with LeBron, and it annoyed me then, and this will annoy me now. It's like, you can play a lot of games throughout this season, and you'll have games to sit and make up on the rest. You should probably play because even like, and this is the thing that is tough, is like, even the fans who did stick by you, or the fans that still defend Jimmy Butler, and you're not going to go play for them. You're not going to go put on a show for them. You're not going to try and compete for them. So it just kind of felt like, nah, it's a PTO day for the Olden Warriors, the Olden State Warriors. So yeah, it was a tough look. It was a tough look for Jimmy. Rats off a ship, dude. Walked out of that building with a loss, and the Heat improved to 9-6. The Warriors dropped to 9-8. Now the Miami Heat go to Chicago, and they got Philadelphia, and then they'll be back home for 3 the week after that. But I enjoyed this performance. I enjoyed this performance today. Great to have Adebayo back. Norman Powell. Thank the basketball gods that these stupid Clippers are so stupid and the Heat ended up with Norman Powell for nothing. It's incredible. And what do you say, dude? We'll do it again later on this week, but that was a fun one. I should add as an aside, this was funny. Bam Adebayo today, he did his media session. And by the way, he said today, he had a great answer about how much he hated being injured, which I'll play for you here.
Not many 2-week injuries that take you out that long. How hard was it, and how much did you miss getting?
Bro, listen. I love Wes Brown, our head trainer, to death, but I hate being injured with him. Because we'll do 4 sets of 80 reps. It's one of those things where I would much rather play injured than do rehab with him. Love you, Wes. But it's difficult sitting over there watching your team battle and compete, and you want to be out there, and you feel like you can impact winning. So it's difficult from that standpoint, but I always when I'm out, I try to figure out how I can play that UD role sometimes where I can affect the game without even be out there.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
But as he's leaving, it's pointed out, it was pointed out by somebody in the room, "Did you see his hat?" And I was like, no, I didn't see his hat. I didn't notice his hat. Well, Tim Reynolds, great Miami Heat reporter from the Associated Press, he took a picture in the locker room of Bam Adebayo's hat, and it says, "Joy dealer." Joy dealer, dude. That's Goosey's galore, okay? I don't make the rules. I just know it when I see it. And that's Goosey's. That's funny. Now, I guess Joy Dealer is a foundation that he backs. But so you're trolling and you're doing great work. Hey, know what we like to call that? We call that 2 birds, 1 stone. Okay, man? He wears the foundational hat. It's called Joy Dealer. Jimmy Butler, he lost his joy. Bam Adebayo, he deals in joy. That is this is second chef's kiss of the night. And by the way, not that Steph Curry, he didn't play. Mwah. Bam Adebayo had the chef's hat on tonight, dude. All right? You know what he was serving? A good old Petty burger.